All right. And it is recording as well.
Terrific. Do we have an idea of number of participants, Chris?
Yeah, I think it was about 20 to 30 from Karen's spreadsheet yesterday.
Okay. All
So
right.
maybe we'll give them about a minute
Yep.
to filter through.
Yeah.
But
Right on. It's right on 2 o'clock now. So yeah, we'll give them a minute.
Yep.
So
slowly starting to filter in.
yeah, I can see the number of participants increasing, which is good. I don't know whether Chris mentioned before, both Prue and Jason, please feel free to ask any questions at any point of time. You know, feel free to interject. Even ask silly questions is okay with me. It's always good to ask any type of question that you want to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll make a start, Chris. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the eWorks webinar, choosing the right LMS for your business. And just to make sure that we're on the right foot, LMS stands for Learning Management System. So this is about choosing the right learning management system for your business. And a bit of an outline for today. My name is Mark Robertson. I'll be co-presenting with Chris Lavager from eWorks. And we have special guests today, Prue Meller from Age Concern and Jason from CMTO. So, welcome once again. Just a bit of background about myself and eWorks. I've been in education technology for over 10 years now, and been behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, really, with the LMS for a long period of time, dealing with different LMS systems. My role here at eWorks is the service delivery manager. So I'm basically responsible for ensuring that everything's going okay with our clients' LMS systems and ensuring that they're getting the most out of their LMS. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Mark. So my name's Chris. Similar to Mark, I've been in the education space for probably over 6 years. In the team space and then moving into the LMS side. Worked with a few different LMS systems such as Canvas and now with eWorks with Moodle. My role at eWorks is lead customer support. So basically dealing with our customers, helping them with any issues, questions, training requirements they may have.
Great, fantastic. And what I might do now is, this is an interactive session. I want people to ask questions. Please feel free to ask questions at any period of time. And I might just throw it back open to the audience with the question, why are you here? So anyone can raise their hand or put something in the chat. Why are you here? Well, I'm sure everyone's here to choose the right LMS. So without further ado, we'll continue. So why does your business need an LMS? And Chris will be talking about the top 5 reasons your business needs an LMS.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. Before I jump into that, we'll just share we've also got 2 of our clients on the call as well. So we've got Prue Meller, who is from Age Concern, and Jason Villelli from CMTO, so Community Media Training Organization. They're going to share their, their views and aspects on the LMS within the webinar as well. But I guess, to start off with, potential reasons that your business might need an LMS. So I guess I've listed a bit of a top 5 of reasons in my own personal perspective. First one being in terms of delivering that training consistency. You can find that if you've ever played that telephone game in primary school or high school or in education, as messages start passing on to different people, they start changing, and you've got a perfect image on the screen there as well. I can definitely tell from over my experience and working for different organizations and the onboarding, you're only going to get what that person is kind of what's been taught. But, you know, as it goes down the chain, you're losing that information. So having it stored onto an LMS ensures that consistency in terms of the reliability of the information that's coming through. You're going to ensure everyone has that same level of training, and it will also help to complement that face-to-face aspect as well. You can mix it up so you're not just working on that one, sitting next to that person, providing them that face-to-face all day. They can also use the theory side system. Secondly, very easy to make sure you're staying up to date with changes. Legislation changes quite often, so it's important to make sure your content is adapting. You're removing any outdated content that's no longer relevant as well. We've got that set up on an LMS. It's really easy to jump in there and make the changes as you need. Third, we're looking at the reporting and compliance. So definitely an important element there. With your current training, how are you evaluating that return on investment? Is there anything tangible that you can see and confirm if it's working or not? Can you track your users on the system you're using at the moment, or if it's face-to-face, can you track their progress as they're going through the different stages? Do you have something tangible to show proof of compliance as well? That the users have completed it successfully, they've ticked through all the requirements that they need to ensure that they've passed everything that they need to. If you want to give it a quick click there, Mark, you can see a bit of an example on the system of being able to track progress of the users. So you can see that anything that's blue on those little blocks is uncompleted. Green means they're completed. Red means they failed. So having an LMS, you can easily go into the system and see, okay, how are the users going? Have they completed it? Do I need to chase them up? You know, if we look at one of the users who's got a lot of blue, that means they're not engaged. So it's probably worth tapping them on the shoulder to see what's happening, or to give them a little push to make sure they complete it. The last two, if we flick over to the next slide, please. We're looking at accessibility and flexibility. So we need to make sure that whenever we are providing training or resources or anything like that, that's adapting to all people from all walks of life. So are we able to adapt to people who have reading difficulties, deaf, blind, all those kind of different scenarios there? Does your current system provide a way to provide text to speech? Can you assist people who need braille, color blindness, people with English as not their first language? Are you able to provide translation so they'll be able to still complete it at the highest level as well? So thinking about how to adapt your learning to provide to all those users, same as devices as well. We all have different devices these days. Whether we jump on our mobile, our tablet, our computer, are they going to get the same level of training regardless of what system they're using? We also want to think about the different types of learners and how we're adapting that. You know, if we think of an auditory user, can we add videos? Can we add sound clips to keep them entertained? Visual, is it visual pleasing? Is it not just a slab of text on the screen that people are going to get turned off as soon as they load up the screen? Are they kinesthetic learners, which is similar to me? You know, I want to be able to engage with it so I don't fall asleep. Are there tasks where I'm doing things, I'm going through it rather than just scrolling up and down? And the last one is reducing that burden on staff members. So if you are using this in the case of onboarding training, if a new person comes in, you've basically got to take a staff out for that whole day to be able to train them. So that means you're down a person while they're completing that training scenario. Whereas if you have it within an LMS, you know they can complete that in their own time without the assistance of someone else. That means that staff member potentially could just spend an hour with them in the morning, let them go off on their way to complete their training, and then you can check in with them at a later stage as well. It also means that you can use that LMS to focus on the theory part as well, and you're not printing or having to share resources. It's all in the one spot. I might throw over to Prue or Jason if there was any other things you can think of in terms of why your business uses an LMS. Maybe Prue?
I think one of the things, even from the very beginning, that we did, and I just noted it down because we were so early, it was interesting to be able to introduce even the concept of not face-to-face training.
Yeah, definitely. And
that's what we have used it for a lot. And so we were actually teaching others how to use computers.
And there's definitely space for that to both cohabitate. So you're leveraging off both as well, which is a great
thing. Yeah. It was really really quite interesting that. Yeah. And because it was fairly new, we kept people engaged, but it was certainly much easier. My goodness, we always did work across Australia. So we had Toolbox as an RTO. We had students in nearly every state. And for nursing, for the university, we had students in every state. So the paperwork was enormous.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Wow.
Next slide. Jason, did you have any comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say that our experience was not too dissimilar to Peru in that we're a national delivery. RTO had ostensibly been delivering it via face-to-face means. And I guess in our early days, the Moodle had really been used as a bit of a repository of sorts. So where people could pick up the digital copies of a resource book, or the trainer could pick up digital copies of materials that they would be using to accompany their delivery, like videos and pieces of audio and so forth. But now we're definitely starting to move to having it more as our holistic delivery side of things. And that doesn't mean that we've put a total end to the delivery of our courses via face-to-face learning. It still does make up a large portion, but it's definitely taken away a lot of that paperwork going to and fro. So probably Australia Post is not terribly happy with us, but in terms of everything else from a streamlined perspective, it's certainly made things a lot more streamlined and feasible.
Yeah, definitely. So you can also see from the cost aspect as well. If distance is an issue, you're not flying people interstate to complete the training. If you're a national company, that's a lot of money you're spending, and in terms of getting people across. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Can you move over to the next slide, please? So in terms of if you get into that stage where you've contemplated and now looking at introducing an LMS, there's obviously going to be different steps, and each organisation is going to be quite different. But some key things to take into mind is make sure you've got some clear objectives. What's the reason this LMS is coming into system? What's the purpose? Make sure that's clear so you can kind of guide the setup to make sure it's meeting those objectives. Stakeholder engagement is definitely key. We've got to make sure that everyone's on board. Otherwise, you can set it up and then it's just going to lay dormant there and it's a waste of money. Think about your timelines. This will all set with the objectives and the engagement. What are the steps that you'll need to do? Are you migrating data from other places? Do you need to create new content? What's your go live date as well? That's definitely key. Training your super users. So these are key users in the organization who will be able to leverage off their knowledge. So if someone gets stuck, they know they can go to a super user and go, can you help me with this part? That's a really good, like a peer system to ensure that if they do get stuck, they're not just going to drop it. They're actually going to try and seek ways to overcome it. Trial and test, you know, we can, for eWorks, a lot of our bigger clients would set up a testing environment, a sandbox environment, where they can trial, play with different aspects, test it out to the point of almost breaking it, just to make sure it is working and those steps, those progress steps are all what you want it to be. You know, going through the student process, is that how you want them to be able to go from the start to the finish? Is there any hurdles stopping them from there? And then the last and most important point is make sure you got buy-in from your users. Make sure that they understand the reason for introducing an LMS. They know what the purpose is. Otherwise, most people would not be keen to proceed or even to use it. So you need to make sure that there is clear buy-in within the organization.
Great, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so what are some important factors in choosing your LMS? There's not necessarily 5 most important factors, but there are many. There are many important factors, but I've isolated 5 because I believe these 5 are the top 5 in choosing your LMS. The first one, which I think is the most important, is obviously your learners. It's called a learning management system. It's not called a business management system. It is for learners. So in taking consideration your learners, you know, what are their goals? What does their journey look like? And, you know, Chris touched on before, not all learners learn the same way. They've got different ways of learning. So in consideration of that, how is that reflected in your learning management system? Now, obviously, each learning management system comes with a whole set of different tools which you can use. You know, everything from embedding videos to uploading audio files to uploading documents, etc. But it's very important to understand what the learner journey looks like, because obviously, if you're going to get a young cohort, then, you know, it's more likely that a lot of their time is going to be spent on their mobile, for example. You know, can the learning management system be accessible on their mobile? Can they get through it on their mobile? Of course, in considering the learners, are the learners part of a business, whether that be a registered training organisation or an association? So, for example, if they're you know, part of a registered training organisation, then assessment is certainly going to be top of mind. So when we talk about assessment, we talk about you know, whether it's formal or informal assessment, or formative or summative assessment, and all those assessments obviously go toward a competency based approach. So in coming back to, you know, your learners, do they understand that the environment that they're in is geared toward assessment? So, for example, on the front page, do you have, look, these are the assignments that you'll need to complete, you know, for this unit. You know, these are the weightings for different assignments and different quizzes, etc. So they really understand, if they're coming from a competency perspective, what their assessment is, so they can fully understand, you know, obviously how to pass that particular module or course. It's slightly different if you're an association or a membership-based association. They're more likely to concentrate on professional development. So they might have a choice as to which courses they'd like to enroll in. It's all points-based, so, you know, some of their learning might be outside the learning management system, attending lectures and conferences, etc. But some of it might be inside the learning management system. So in consideration of the learning management system, the key question is, is the system flexible enough to incorporate learning outside the system as well as inside the system? So please bear that in mind. And in both cases, whether you're a registered training organisation or a business with CPD or going through an induction process, is the learner going to get a certificate or a badge? Are they familiar with microlearning? Are they familiar with digital badges? They might be adding to their own professional development where they're seeking recognition, a badge, a digital badge, which then can be displayed on their, for example, their LinkedIn profile. So it's very important to consider, what the end goal of the learner is. The second most important consideration, obviously, is budget. How long is a piece of string? Now, you can obviously go for a learning management system which is inexpensive, or right at the other end, very, very expensive. So do you need all the add-ons? And what I mean by that is, how is your system going to really fully relate to the learner? Do you need a shopping cart, for example? That's going to be an add-on. Do you need a sandbox in which to test your materials and process flows of the courses themselves? What sort of additional things are you likely to have in your learning management system? For example, a plagiarism checker in this world of AI, where people can quickly go online and ask Bard, for example, to write an assignment or to write an answer. Do you have the technology to check their answers? So this is what I mean about different add-ons. And of course, the more add-ons that you add on, the more expensive it's going to get. Other considerations are different systems that the LMS may talk to. So I'll get into that in the third point. So do your research about the learning management system. So does your learning management system, for example, talk to your student information system, or SIS? Does it talk to your CRM, your customer relationship management? As I said, does it have a shopping cart? So there's all these different considerations for making sure that data not only passes between one system and another, but does it pass securely as well? Will your learning management system be interoperable with other content from external providers? One technology that you can use is LTI, or Learning Tools Interoperability, which enables you to source external content securely, and for that content to be brought up in your learning management system. And there's various publishers that do that. So obviously integration is key. Personalization. We live in an age where everything is personalized. You get on your mobile phone, it tells you exactly where you are, what sort of weather that you can expect for where you are at this particular time. It's no different in a learning management system. So that learning management system must know not only who you are and what you're enrolled in, but also who you are in a group, for example. What is your next course? So personalization is very key. The analytics as well. Now, it's all very well having a group of learners in your system, but are they going to pass or fail? Are they going to be competent or not yet competent? Are they going to complete their continuing professional development? So the analytics in terms of whether they complete the course or not, how much time they're actually spending on the course, all adds up to insights into the learner journey. So you can determine, for example, how long they've looked at a video. So that in turn determines whether your course is full of videos or not. If a learner isn't spending a lot of time or is dismissing the videos that you've put together on your learning management system, you may want to look at not incorporating so many videos within a particular course. Communication is also important. And what I mean by that is communication between learners. So between learners and the facilitator, making sure that's a seamless process, notifications, etc., within your LMS. And finally, design. And this is, again, what Chris touched on earlier, and this is about accessibility. So there are various plugins that you can buy which enable accessibility. It will convert the screen to different colors, for example, or will produce a pop-up to describe a particular picture rather than the actual picture being there. So yeah, do your research. Fourth, choose the right vendor. It's absolutely critical that you choose the right vendor. That vendor will determine the success or failure of your LMS. So is that vendor communicating with you in a way that you want to be communicated to? It's all very well putting out lots of money, but if they can't communicate to you in a language that you understand, then it's going to become very costly. So in choosing the right vendor, I would definitely recommend that your vendor is able to communicate with you in a way that you not only understand, but can also look at how they're going to communicate to you to the best effect in the future. So technical expertise, definitely. If you've got a particular report, for example, in mind, but it's not available within the LMS, you're going to need some sort of technical expertise to produce a custom report. Additional services. Additional services are very important. Does the vendor have content creation facilities? You may not be in a position where you're creating all the content yourself, so you may rely upon your vendor to create further content for you. And again, technical expertise. Are they able to create a script to make your process within the LMS easier? For example, if you have thousands of users that you want to migrate from one system to another, you're not going to do this manually. You're going to have a script or some sort of file which will be uploaded into your LMS to populate your user base. So choose the right vendor. Lastly, what does the future look like? We touched on earlier, put your learners first. Now, the future for them, what does it look like? This is going to be reflected in your LMS. So will your LMS keep you up to date? So everything is in constant change, and LMS is no different. LMS is just a piece of software. So the software itself is constantly updating. A good example is your mobile phone. You might leave it overnight to update the software, so the next morning, no problem, it all works fine. But in an LMS, there are many different things to consider. It's not as simple as just leaving it on overnight and hoping that everything's going to be okay tomorrow. There are many updates within LMS systems, maintenance updates, major releases, which will impact the coding of the LMS. So you want to be really aware that your provider is keeping you up to date as to what's the next release, how is that going to affect my system, will it mean that my learners are able to access it or not, will they still have the same capabilities within the system? So yeah, make sure that your LMS provider is keeping up to date. The other thing too is make sure that your provider is keeping up to date on their roadmap. What is your LMS provider doing that's looking toward the future? So what extra bells and whistles, if you like, are they providing to your learners, which will make their engagement even better, will make their learning even better? And finally, what does the LMS look like? What in the future? So, there's all sorts of conversations around for example, learning experience platforms, conversations around artificial intelligence. So, you know, how does AI affect your LMS in the future? That's another topic. But what I can say is that there will be quite significant changes if you don't consider the role of future technologies like AI, like VR, like MR, virtual reality, mixed reality, and augmented reality into your LMS, because these are the things that your learners are going to expect. And if you provide a learning management system which is not up to speed, they're going to go simply to somewhere else that is up to speed. So yeah, just in summary, put your learners first. Obviously, look at your budget, do your research, choose the right vendor, and make sure that you look out for the future. I might throw it open to either Prue or Jason now, just to have any comments that they'd like to add for that.
I think there was a really important point made on that earlier slide about taking people on that particular journey with you. And I think certainly from our experience here, the key stakeholder was more the trainer than the learners. We found that a lot of learners were already familiar with Moodle or some other similar form of technology, especially if they had already been a student with another tertiary institution before they'd come to us. It was more the trainers that we had to take on that particular journey. And yeah, I think we're now, we've got, for the most part, the majority of them on board. Don't be afraid to, I guess, run a little bit of a hybrid model for a little while there, where you maybe say to the trainer, okay, I'll give you as a safety blanket some of the materials in a physical format, yeah, but for all intents and purposes, we want the students to be putting their assessment task submissions into the Moodle. And I think by doing that part, they sort of seeing a bit of where they've come from and a bit of where they're going to. And then in subsequent courses that they deliver, they'll then have that extra level of comfort to be able to move forward, you know, with the Moodle and all of its digital wizardry that'll be available to them. Yeah, and then obviously see the benefits of that through the like of you know, not having physical workbooks to mark and being able to do it all through the portal, and you'll quickly find that yeah, people will come on board with that. Yeah.
Thanks. Prue, any comments? I think you're on mute there, Prue.
Yeah, that's okay. That was really interesting. We use the combined. We have gone back to combine now since COVID. So we will do face-to-face, but we still put a lot on the system. This is certainly for our professional development. It would seem from our very recent experience and from feedback, people are getting a bit tired of doing Zoom meetings. So we're actually combining it, and that's working particularly well. So it was interesting that you mentioned that, Mark. So we haven't cut down on anything to that degree. All the marking, etc., is certainly in the learning management system. You know, all the data is there, but it can be really useful. And I think the other thing for me, certainly from my point of view with eWorks and Moodle, that there's been, it's a totally different system to when we began it in 2008. The technology now is amazing. And I think that's really great that eWorks is, you know, kept up to date. That's really wonderful.
Great, thanks very much for that. Okay, so just sort of going back to the LMS. Chris, did you want to talk further about introducing the LMS to your business?
No, I think we might, maybe we'll throw it over to our guests.
Yeah.
So I guess, Prue, did you want to, I guess, give a little bit about, so I guess what you use your LMS, so Moodle, on a daily basis, and the benefits to your business?
Yes, certainly. Well, we were introduced to eWorks in, as I said, 2008, who introduced us to the learning management system and Blackboard. At that time, we were using toolboxes for our RTO, and we were travelling interstate every month to deliver face-to-face postgraduate unit with specialists in every state. So when we learned this when we were introduced to this learning management system, it was just an amazing relief that we didn't have to find specialists in every capital city, etc. We just brought them all in, and it was just amazing. And we've used it, and that was really early days. You know, we had to tell people, you know, you click this icon to get into the recordings and etc. In those early days, certainly the university assignments were marked on in paper, but we transitioned the RTO and eventually the university marking to the learning management system. So for us, it even though we were national, it was face-to-face national. And it was just, crazy stuff, like seriously crazy stuff. So for us, it allowed us to really expand and grow our business. You know, the other point was, as my background is nursing, so IT is not inherent in my bones or my blood, and the staff managed it very well. But more than anything else, apart from keeping up with the technology that I think eWorks does, is the support. The support, when we began, the gentleman turned up and put it on the systems. The support from eWorks is over and above any other business in Australia. And I say that in all honesty because I've dealt with them all, and most recently Telstra, but it's just amazing, the support for everybody. But the whole thing has been a really great experience.
Thank you for your feedback and your kind words. Jason, so I guess the same questions back to you. The business use of your LMS at the moment and the benefits of using the LMS to your business.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I can only sort of speak of my 4.5 year employment here with the organisation, but I've definitely seen some massive changes over that particular period of time. So, yes, whilst we've been an eWorks customer and a middle LMS user for greater than that period, certainly when I arrived, as I sort of alluded to earlier, it was just really as more of a repository. We weren't doing a lot with it other than just using as a repository for a lot of the stuff that the students were already getting in a physical format. Now that's moved into the case here where for pretty much the majority of our courses now, the student submissions are being done online, when they're taking that a step forward to actually having a lot of the resources through like a SCORM package type of integration, where students actually have the ability to read. It's all very visually appealing. There's knowledge checks along the way so that the students can check their knowledge of particular concepts before they move forward and actually attempt the assessment tasks, and similarly kept up, as I was saying earlier, that repository for the trainers as well. But I'll also touch on another side of it, which I guess, and again, full credit to eWorks for coming on board with this. We had a situation probably around about 12 to 18 months ago where one of the frustrations that we had with our compliance obligations, especially in terms of mapping our trainers' qualifications and experience to the units that we were delivering, was the manner in which those details were captured. And 12 to 18 months ago, that was through a 70 odd page Word document, which just continued to grow and grow as we added more units of competency to our scope. So in discussions with eWorks, we came up with an online solution where that data is now actually being captured through the Moodle. So we've basically built what we call another portal, which we call internally here the Trainers Lounge, which is where all of the trainers can actually go in, not only retrieve all of their resources for the delivery that they're doing, but fulfill all their training obligations as well. So watch back professional development videos that we've delivered here, or ones that we've made available to them, or actually complete this document that I'm referring to now that sits in an online capacity. And yeah, we ran a training session on that probably about 6 months or so ago, when we first implemented it for our trainers. And it was great to actually see them, doing it. We ran it as an interactive session, giving them a look and feel of how it worked. And it was probably, the biggest take up that we've ever had, and really helping us with fulfilling our compliance obligations on something that was, really getting to the point of, like pulling teeth every year when we were trying to get that data out of trainers. So to have that now in a much more user-friendly, much less cumbersome capacity, has certainly been a huge bonus. And as I say, we wouldn't have been able to have been able to put that together with our own in-house intel here. So eWorks was certainly a great partner to work with on that project.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, I might throw it over to our participants if we've got any queries or questions on the content. It's not an easy process choosing the right LMS for your business. As we've talked about, there are many things to consider, many things to research. There are many, obviously, resources available on the internet, but nothing really beats actually talking to a person. We're obviously available to talk to, and email, etc. I'm very mindful of people's time, and I'm also mindful of sharing our next webinar. And just for everyone's benefit, our next webinar is Supercharging Your Learning with AI. Now, I briefly touched on AI previously. So our next webinar is with Katie Proy, who's our Head of Business Development, and Dr. Stefan Pomponici from the Charles Darwin University. So they'll be talking about what is AI and what is ChatGPT, what's the role of AI in education and learning, some myths, and using AI to our advantage in education. So a very, very interesting webinar coming up on the 13th of September. I think I might leave it there, and just please don't hesitate to give your feedback on this webinar. Your feedback can be done through either calling us directly or at sales@eworks.edu.au. But I think, Chris, there's actually a feedback form as well.
Yeah, just in the chat as well.
Oh, it's in the chat?
Yep.
Terrific. Yeah, so don't hesitate giving us feedback. We're always looking for your feedback. And I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. And we really look forward to seeing you all again for our next webinar. And I'd like to thank especially Prue for your time today. That was very insightful. The things that you shared with us, and Jason, thank you very, very much for your time.
Pleasure.
And also thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy the rest of today.
Cheers.
Okay, see you then. Bye.